Here on React Navigation website, let's look at this page. Hello React Navigation. So as you can see, first we have to install the Stack Navigator library. So each navigator is implemented in a separate library. Here we're going to use a Stack Navigator. So we have to install this library, copy this, and paste it in the terminal. So the version I'm using is version 5.3.5. Now, I've simplified the code in our app component because we want to take a break from our app and study React Navigation in isolation. So on the top, I'm just importing React and the text component from React Native. And after that, I'm importing the screen component that we built earlier in the course. This makes sure that our content is in the safe area. Now let's create a couple of components for studying navigation. So tweets. Let's imagine with this component, we're going to show a list of tweets to the user. So a basic function component, we add a screen, and then inside the screen, we add a text component, say tweets. Let's also create tweet details. So in the future, when we tap on a tweet, we're going to go to the tweet details screen. So one more time, screen, text, and here we say tweet details. Okay. So now we have two components. Let's create a Stack Navigator. On the top, we're going to import a function called create Stack Navigator from the library that we just installed at React Navigation/stack. Okay. Now we're going to call this function create Stack Navigator. This gives us an object. Let's call that stack. Now this object has a couple of properties, navigator and screen, and both of these are React components. That is why I named this object using the Pascal naming convention, because we're going to use this like a React component. So let's create another component called Stack Navigator. Now look at the naming convention. Here we have stack, and then we have Stack Navigator. This is the convention that I like to follow. It makes your code really clean and maintainable. So once again, we create a function component. First, we add stack.navigator. Then we add a bunch of screen components. With these screen components, we can define our routes. So stack.screen. Here's our first route. We give it a unique name, like tweets, and the component that should be rendered when we are at this route. That is our tweets component. Let's duplicate this. For our second route, we're going to call this tweet details, and our component is going to be tweet details as well. So now that we have a navigator, we need to wrap this inside a navigation container. So on the top, we're going to import a component called navigation container from at React Navigation/native. So this component is defined in the main library, but this function is defined in the stack library. Now, other navigators like tab and drawer navigators, they have the same structure. You'll see that soon. So back to our app component. Here we're going to return a navigation container. And inside this container, we're going to use our Stack Navigator component. So Stack Navigator. Here's what you need to take away here. Instead of rendering specific screens like tweets or tweet details, we're going to render our Stack Navigator component. This component knows how to navigate between different screens. So let's save the changes and see what we get. Because we're using a Stack Navigator, we get this header on the top. We can fully customize this. We can change the background or foreground color. We can change the style of this text. We can add buttons to the left or right side of this header. We have a whole lot of control over this header. Now here by default, we see the tweet screen because that's the first screen or the first route we have defined in our navigator. If I swap the order of the screens, now we have to manually reload the app because the navigator is maintaining the navigation state. So reload. Now the initial screen is the tweet details screen. We can change that by setting this prop. Initial route name, we set it to tweets. Now let's reload one more time. Now our front screen is the tweet screen. So these names that we use here, they should uniquely identify our route. And by default, what we specify here will be used as the title of the header bar. We can always change that later. So let's simplify this code. We don't need this prop. And let's move the tweet screen first. Next, I'm going to show you how to take the user from one screen to another.